Welcome to the Core Mission Podcast, where we delve into real stories of transformation from Salvation Army Corps across Canada and Bermuda, showcasing their journey in building a discipleship culture. In our upcoming episodes, we explore Alpha and its impact on evangelism in our neighborhoods. In episode 2, join host Rebekah McNeilly as we sit down with Captains Brent and Melissa Haas from Encounter Church in Nova Scotia. They share their first-hand experience with implementing Alpha in their church, offering invaluable insights into leveraging this resource for effective evangelism and community engagement. This is the Core Mission Podcast.
So I'm here today with Brent and Melissa Haas. We talked about the correct pronunciation before we started. I was told I had free creative reign, so I went with Haas. I'm really excited to be here with you guys. Today we're going to talk about Alpha in the context of your church, Encounter. We're here in Lower Sackville.
Yeah.
Got it right. So before we talk about Alpha specifically, just tell me about Encounter, about your work here, what's unique about Encounter. Just share with me about this church.
Well, Encounter is a baby still. We're only 2 years old. We'll turn 3 in September. And this is our first church planting experience. So we're learning as we go, so to say. But it's been a great journey as we have planted this church. The vision of Encounter Church is to reach the unchurched.
Yeah.
And so everything that we think about, everything we strategize about, all of our meetings, anything that we talk about or discuss, our focus is on churched people and breaking down barriers in order to get the people to come, not only on Sunday, but to the various things that we offer. It was born out of scripture, Luke chapters 14 and 15, where it talks about all the lost things, the lost coin, all of that stuff, the lost son, the lost sheep, but it talks about where there's a place at the table for everyone. So the table is our image, there's a seat for everyone, and so it's really based on scripture. It's a very diverse community, even in Sackville, our church, yes, but Sackville is a diverse community. We're sandwiched between 2 schools. We're side by side with a park, First Lake Park here. There's apartment buildings all around us, and it's very multicultural in that setting. So how do we break down the barriers for unchurched people is our focus, and letting them know that there's a seat at the table for them.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add?
I don't think there's much I could add to that, to be honest. It is that heartbeat of reaching the unchurched.
Yeah.
And we are positioned to do that, just that. And I believe any church right now in Canada, Bermuda, the world,
Absolutely.
it would be hard to find a place where you're not positioned with unchurched people. More unchurched than church.
Absolutely.
In your neighborhood, your community, our families, our friends. Yeah.
And it can be so hard because I think there can be some angst around reaching the unchurched. Like it can be awkward. Sometimes it feels easier to focus on our existing churched people who are important as well.
Absolutely.
But what you're doing is, I really think, like you said, the beating heart of what church is. Like,
And when you get a taste of that,
Yeah.
of seeing unchurched people come to Christ, their lives transformed, and so excited about sharing that with others,
right?
it's addictive in a good way. You know what I mean? You just want to see more and more lives transformed.
Absolutely.
And you get a taste of it, and you want more and more and more.
And this is the discipleship journey, right?
Yeah.
It's just like cyclical.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is part of why you chose to use Alpha, but just share a little bit, why did you choose Alpha? And feel free to give a little bit of context for what Alpha is, what the goal is of Alpha, in your words, and why you decided to use it here at Encounter.
Yeah.
Well, we've heard about Alpha before. We've never ran Alpha, but the stories of Alpha, the testimonies that we have heard from Alpha, it works. It's very successful, and so why wouldn't you not want to run Alpha in your church context?
Yeah, and I think for us, it was also the case. We heard these stories of lives transformed. We also heard stories of church transformed. Not only dying churches, but dead churches. Like legit. Like you hear these testimonials from other denominations where their church was dead. They were getting ready to close the doors. And somebody said, why don't we give Alpha a try? And we heard testimony after testimony, and we're like, we need to try this. And Alpha, when you look at it at its basis of creating a safe home-like environment where you around a table, as Melissa already said, an image of ours, doing life together is our slogan here at Encounter. So Alpha so embodies that of being authentic, relational, around a table, come as you are, break down barriers. And so it was just a natural fit, and we're like, wait a minute, if we're a church for the unchurched, Alpha was created to reach unchurched people.
Absolutely.
And create an environment where you can come with your questions, come whatever your belief system is, atheist, not sure what you believe, your hard questions. And so it just was a natural fit, and we're like, we've heard the stories, we want our story. We want to see lives transformed through this tool, and we have, and I'm sure we'll come to that.
Absolutely. So just for my own benefit, as much as anyone listening to this, Alpha works as videos, right? There's a number of videos over the course of 6 or 8 weeks or something like that, right?
Yep.
And you come together and you sit around tables and you might have some food together, and then you would watch these videos, and then in like smaller groups you would discuss, right?
Yep.
And the idea would be that you would have a number of non or churched people, but largely it's made up of like people you've invited or friends of whoever goes to your church, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So when you presented this, because not everybody is always comfortable with something like this, what was the initial reaction to doing Alpha here?
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of confusion at first in the sense of, well, what is Alpha? The majority of people, both the small nucleus of church people that we had, as well as the unchurched people that we had reached by this time, even who had connected to the church, maybe not even necessarily to a relationship with God at that point, Alpha was, well, what's Alpha? I've never heard of it before. And so there was a real confusion initially. So we're like, well, how do we help people understand what it is and what it's not? We had a limited firsthand experience, not even ourselves, that we ever ran an Alpha or been a part of. So there was someone in our church family that had ran Alpha before, so we had him share on a Sunday morning. Alpha also has some amazing resources, including video testimonies from individuals whose lives have been transformed. So we didn't necessarily know the people, but we started incorporating these testimonials into our Sunday morning worship gatherings. And all of a sudden, the confusion became curiosity. People were curious. It was like, wow, like a meal together, and then we're going to watch a video, and then we can discuss. And one of the foundational pieces with Alpha is that sense of being authentic and just bring your questions. So,
Well, and you can ask any question. There's no right question, no wrong question. It's just the difficult questions, whatever you think of God or what you don't, you can ask it in a non-judgmental environment, and that's huge for a lot of people that have questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and this is something that sometimes is hard in churches, is especially if you've grown up like with a super religious background, stepping outside of that, because I've gone through Alpha years and years ago, and I was a Christian already at the time, but even for me, it was like, wow, creating space to ask questions that I might otherwise think, I'm not supposed to wonder this.
Absolutely. You know, you're a doubting Thomas, right?
Right.
You're not supposed to ask questions. You're just supposed to know, believe, have trust, have faith,
Exactly.
believe that it's all true. But we have questions. And Alpha gives a space to come in a non-judgmental environment, which I say every Sunday in our gatherings, that you're here, some of us believe in God, some of us don't, but this is a place for us to come and explore in a non-judgmental environment. This is why Alpha and Encounter, we tangle well together because we're very similar.
That's beautiful. I love that we tangle well together. So then walk me through so you were like, let's do Alpha. This sounds awesome. And then what did you do?
So some of our first steps were obviously starting to create that curiosity, like telling some stories, having people share from their experience. Another key component of Alpha, so simple but yet so powerful, is invitation.
Yeah.
So that is at the foundation. Prayer and invitation was our starting points. We just started praying. We have prayer and worship gatherings in our Sunday morning worship gatherings. And we just started praying into God, if you want us to use this tool, just open doors, make ways for us to make this possible. So we really started to pray into it. And then we started to create the curiosity for people to invite family and friends, and at our food bank, started to promote this and started to use different means in order to get the word out there. And then, of course, we had to create a team. And some of this now is coming into both our challenges, but it was steps that we had to start working through in order to make Alpha a reality here at Encounter.
Okay, here I am. I'm going off script already because I have curiosity. So when you did that, when you started putting information out into the community, did you have just people with no prior connection to the church come at any point?
Yeah, we did. And we had people come connect in from our food bank. We had people connect in from the community.
Yeah.
We had people connect in from our church family, so those who had already connected to Encounter.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, and I know you referenced it earlier too. We had some people who were already believers, and many who were not. But Alpha was as transforming for the believer as it was for the non-believer.
Yeah.
Asking those questions again, that environment, and even just the sense of contagiousness when people are discovering Christ, and we had many who made those commitments to Christ, that is fuel to a believer's spirit and soul.
Oh, it is. And it's hard as a believer, or I think there's a bit of a tendency among, especially young Christians, I guess I can speak for myself, to feel like, I don't even know what a new salvation would look like. And Alpha is actually the space one of the only spaces I've had the opportunity to see someone just say, okay, yes, I'm going to try this following Jesus thing out. And I think it's because, and you've alluded to this, it's in relationship with others. But also, it's also messy, especially when you have, a mix of backgrounds and life experiences and existing knowledge around God, and maybe some knowledge that's, a little out of line with Scripture at times. Like there's all these different scenarios. So I'm thinking to myself, what were the challenges as you were implementing this?
Yeah, there were challenges, no doubt. First of all, it was creating a team. Because, okay, we got this vision, we want to see Alpha a reality, but somebody has to lead it, somebody has to promote it, and if you're going to have food, someone, so there's these rules.
Being a young church in years, in age, but also being a church for unchurched people, having leaders is a struggle, because we're so young, so new, So being able to create a team, we didn't really know where to start, but just like Encounter, people just fall on your laps. and so there is a person in our congregation who's actually been trained in Alpha, for years, and have ran many Alphas, and he came forward and said, I will jump on board and help. So that's just one.
And then we started creating a team, and so how do you overcome that challenge? It is amazing. We cannot stress enough how amazing and simple the Alpha resources are.
Yeah.
You don't need, like,
To really think.
no, you don't. Like, it's all
there.
the promotion material, the videos, the posters, the discussion conversations. And because it's such about being just so real and authentic, you don't even have to, you don't have to have the answers. You don't need a theological background. You don't need to be a teacher or a preacher. Actually, it's more effective if you're not. The greatest thing you can bring to Alpha is yourself. Your authentic
Alpha
self.
don't want you to answer the questions.
No.
That was one of the things that came through in the video. Like, they don't want someone to sit at that table and have all the answers, because people are meant to explore.
Yeah.
And that's actually counterproductive to have someone there who's like, this is what you're supposed to know.
Absolutely.
That's not the stage of the discipleship journey that they're
Absolutely.
at
Absolutely.
when you start
Absolutely.
off.
So that was definitely a challenge to creating the team.
Yeah.
Then we kind of get the team created, and then there's the challenge of getting people connected.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, what is Alpha? And so
But Alpha is so driven on invitation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you need to invite people. It's not just people are going to show up. Some might, but you need to get out and invite people. So trying to encourage our people to get out and invite people to come to Alpha when they didn't really understand what Alpha was,
Right.
was
They
a challenge.
And they kind of have to take a leap of faith of like inviting a friend, a coworker, not fully knowing what they are going to
Set them up for.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, these videos give such a beautiful, again, authentic picture of what it is, and even food. I mean, food, now we're foodies, so that kind of, we tangle with that too.
Yeah.
But food as a way of connecting with people of
The
all
table.
ages, the table, all ages,
Yeah.
all backgrounds, all religious beliefs, all nationalities, like it just as a way of bringing people together, and even if, you want to come for a free meal, and we're going to have conversation together and explore.
It's connection,
and-
it's relationship, it's all stuff that people are looking for and longing for.
Yeah.
And Alpha offers that.
Yeah, people are starved for connection, togetherness, and feeling seen and known,
And all the obstacles and all these challenges, they really were, they looked a lot bigger than they actually were. And once we started making some steps forward, it's like, wait a minute, you don't need a huge team to make Alpha a reality. You could be a church of 3 or 4 people and make Alpha a reality. And connecting with people, well, you just need someone who's willing to invite. And we did, like, social media. We have found social media very effective, and I think even through our social media we try to build relationship and connection and tell our story, and even those who've connected by that means, we've had numerous people that have come to our church for the first time, and even those who connected to Alpha, that their first connection with us was through social media.
Oh, fantastic. And it's so good that you're leveraging like what is popular among different ages too, because sometimes churches were like kind of late to the party. Like we're slow to catch up with what everyone else is using to communicate.
Yeah.
Did you find that Alpha, because have you run it more than once, or have you just run it once at this point?
We've ran it once for adults, once for youth,
Okay.
and we're right in the middle of marriage now, because there's also an Alpha marriage, pre-marriage.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's fantastic.
So there's the pre-marriage, and then there's actually, I think, like for married couples, once you're married,
Wow.
that's other resources. Alpha is just a beautiful potluck of
Yeah.
amazing tools and resources for reaching into our community. So that's what we have ran or are running, and I'm sure we'll probably come to this a little later, but we're about to put Alpha to the next level here at Encounter. There's no
okay.
question about that.
Oh, that's exciting.
But that is, that's been our history of Alpha thus far.
I actually didn't know, because we are going to run Alpha Youth at our church, but I didn't know there was a marriage one, which would be really great if also you had Christian spouses who maybe their spouse didn't know God, or they became a Christian later and their spouse hasn't. And such an opportunity to do it together without it being this like high pressure, overwhelming thing.
Absolutely.
Like you come, you share, you eat, you
Yeah.
chat. That's all it
And
is.
it's done like a date night. Like you come
Yeah.
in and you eat like dessert and sit at
Yeah.
tables. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Actually, these very tables that we're at right now
Yeah.
are the
You feel
very
like
tables.
A cafe.
Oh,
so
that's lovely.
And this room that we're in right now is actually the room that the marriage,
Oh,
the
lovely.
pre-marriage takes
Yeah.
place. So.
And it's very warm, and it's
Yeah.
it's comfortable, it's
Yeah.
safe, you know? So did you find that once this is why I asked if you'd run it, how many times you've run it, have you noticed any shifts in the overall dynamics of your church since you started running Alpha, just the way people interact with each other, or perhaps the way they see each other, they see Alpha, they see the unchurched people, like anything at all?
Yeah, I think for us, it really put fuel on the fire. That's kind of a way we've articulated, because Encounter was born out of a vision. Even though when Encounter was born, we didn't know a lot about Alpha. When we started doing some research and the idea of the table again, authentic, be real, be relational, we're like, wait a minute, like this just, what was it, you said the tango? Yeah,
Yeah,
like we tangle
yeah.
well. Like it was amazing. What I would say is, Alpha have just added fuel to that fire. We were born with a desire to reach on church. But of course, I think what church would say, oh, we're not for the unchurched?
Well, they shouldn't.
Well, they shouldn't. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the question then is, well, where's the fruit of that? Are you
Right.
reaching on church? When was the last time someone came to Christ through the ministry and mission of your church? And sadly, many stories and stats would say for some years since someone has come to Christ.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to just say on paper, oh, we're a church for the unchurched. Well, how do we, nobody's intentionally saying, well, we're going to do this not
Right.
to reach
We
the
actually
unchurched.
strategize.
Yeah.
Like everything we think about, talk about, board meetings, leadership meetings,
Budgets.
strategic planning, budgets, everything. Our focus is on church people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
And so Alpha just put fuel on that fire and,
Alpha
gave us a tool.
was among like our first salvations that we would have.
Yeah.
We had a couple,
Yeah.
but it put fuel to the
Yeah.
fire, and people was like, "Oh my goodness, look at!" It makes people excited.
And the desire right now for more Alpha. So all these people who've come to Christ in through Alpha
Are on fire.
with it. And of course the congregation is like, wait a minute, we know this person, we know that person. Look at their life transformed. Look at them now getting involved, and we need more Alpha. So we realized that this is a tool. So on actually just a few days ago, we held an Alpha training night. We had 12 new individuals come out to be a part of the
And
training.
most of them I've never heard of Alpha.
Absolutely not.
Oh, that's amazing.
And we got individuals, I think a little later, you'll be chatting with Jane, an
Yeah,
individual who came to Christ through Alpha at
On church.
Encounter, on church. She's got her story and she'll share it.
Yeah.
But Jane is now a part of the team that's training to run future Alphas.
Oh, that is so cool.
Which is about reproduction. It's about reproducing, of course,
Yeah.
and disciples making disciples.
Oh, it's so good. And I mean, you've already sort of answered this question, but you've noticed a change in the engagement and the participation at your church as a result of this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, and like new people coming in from your community, and what about just overall outreach and evangelism efforts outside of Alpha? Have you noticed any shift? And let me see, I can also frame this in different ways. Like, what's the culture of evangelism like here now? Is there less angst, less fear, more excitement? Like, what's going on in that sense?
Yeah. I mean, we're growing by the week. And the number one, I mean, we started, well, less than 3 years ago with 20 of us in a common room in a condo building. And we have just continued to grow.
This
and
past
grow.
Sunday we had 97 people.
Yeah.
And remind me where you started.
In a common room in a condo building
Yeah.
with 20 people.
And how
And we're
long
just
ago
2
was
years
that?
old.
Less than 3 years.
That is just incredible. Like, that's that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah. And well, we were just gone away for 2 weeks of vacation, so this was our first Sunday back. And when I stood up to lead worship and I looked out over the crowd, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many of you that I've never met before. And we were just gone 2 weeks.
I met at least 10 to 12 people that I didn't know when I left, say, 2.5 weeks ago for
But
vacation.
it's all through invitation. People are inviting people. And even some of our volunteers at our food bank, they're hearing the stories, they're hearing all of this stuff about Encounter, and they're coming. And we actually had one come on Sunday, and she's like, it's been a long time since I've walked through the doors of a church.
Years.
This church is different. It's not like any other church I've ever been in. And I'm like, thank you. That's exactly what we want to be. We want to be, you're so friendly. It's so welcoming. It's so cozy. It's just like being home. And that's absolutely what it's like. So it's exciting.
It is.
It is exciting.
It's a lot of fuel.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it just hearing you talk about it, and I want to see it in my context. And I wonder if part of it is because you're running Alpha, which is a little bit of a mix of churched and unchurched, and it's by invitation. So like, if I invited my friend, I would attend Alpha with that friend.
Yep.
There's buy-in from your congregants.
Yes.
This is not like, Pastor Brent and Melissa are evangelizing the community and you guys all just come to church. No, there's like it's everyone. It's a collective buy-in to the vision of spreading the gospel.
And it's not only on Sundays. I mean, our street ministry goes out every Wednesday night, and actually some individuals who came to Christ through Alpha serve at street ministry, and their eyes have been opened in a completely different way. We have parking lot pizza every Wednesday where we serve pizza to our students. We serve about 300-400 students weekly pizza.
So cool.
They come into our building. We're having conversations with them. So this is why we're considering Youth Alpha through the school in that way. But some of our church, they serve on that team. They come every Wednesday. Some of these people are on-church people who still haven't made that step of faith, but they're coming, they're serving. It's just so many ways that Encounter is involved in the community and evangelizing in that way.
It's amazing. And it was even just alluded, going away, it's amazing. I mean, it was a great little vacation, but there's something about maybe going away and coming back. And another piece to see, and
it's not Brent and Melissa doing it. Like we weren't even
we
here.
were gone, and there's like, because again, so often we can have churches built on pastors.
Oh.
And we've
when the
been
pastor
there.
goes away, no one shows up.
And it's
but
like,
for 2 Sundays, our church was packed.
Yeah, and continued to grow and new people. So again, you can't, well, this is Brent and Melissa. No, we're gone. And people are still inviting people.
The DNA and the culture is being woven into everybody that comes.
Yeah.
And we're not only about a Sunday church.
No.
We don't want to be that. We want to be out into the community.
Church,
so we're the church.
And hearing you talk, I'm so reminded that especially those of us who have grown up in the church, who've always done church, who have done church activities and Wednesday night and youth group, we can forget that this is the gospel. We can forget that we're talking about a living, moving Savior, and lose sight of the fact that this is, we should put our efforts in, and we should strategize and plan, but we're trusting that once we do that, the Spirit will move, and that God will honor those, those efforts.
Everything we share here today, Rebekah, is nothing shy of a miracle. Because if you had to say, how will all this happen, and how did you get the people and the space, and nothing shy of the power of prayer. It started in prayer and Alpha foundation prayer. Because we're asking God to do what only God can do.
When we thought we didn't even have a team to lead.
Legit, it is nothing shy of a miracle. We have a miracle working God. And if there's someone out there saying, man, we couldn't do this, our church couldn't pull it off, man, that would be a miracle. Go for it.
Do it.
Do it, because He is a God of miracles, and is nothing shy of a miracle of how God can take something so simple, so cost effective, so low people power needed to pull it off, and transform lives.
And we've learned that
He's so good.
that you don't have to wait until it's perfect. You've got the perfect team, you've got the perfect space, you've got the perfect person to cook the food. Like, you don't have to wait for the perfect. Just go do it, rely on the Spirit, and He's going to prepare it away, which is exactly what He's doing in
It's our testimony.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you shared that, because I think sometimes churches, both pastors and like overextended leaders, can be like, oh, great, one more thing. I can't do another thing. But, well, first of all, I think outreach, evangelism, and Alpha as means is one of the most important
Keep
things.
first things first.
Yeah, why have a church if we aren't seeing people come to know Jesus as a result of that, the presence of that church in the community? So this question is sort of like a, I guess, forward moving from the Alpha experience, and it's, I guess, I'll add my own spin to it. So I think there's angst about discipleship sometimes, like really robust, deep discipleship. So what happens after Alpha? Like, where do you go from there?
Yeah, and that is a key question. Now, one of the things about Alpha, it is about reproducing.
Yeah.
So a part of the discipleship, what's next? Like, okay, we run Alpha, now what? We want to now encourage, as we are, and train, which Alpha gives you all the material to train, to now go run Alphas, be a part of Alpha team. So that's starting to give leadership. That's starting to invite them into their own prayer lives and into their own scripture and Bible study and devotional lives and what have you. So one of the pieces is the reality that it is about reciprocation. It is about multiplication, reproducing.
Like, you went through Alpha, now you lead Alpha.
Yeah, and so, I mean, that's a part of discipleship.
Yeah.
There's also a piece as a church, and we are right now, again, acknowledging, being a church plant.
Yeah.
We're just about to get ready to launch our discipleship pathway, which is looking at, and we're actually taking, again, the image of the table and seats at the table of how do people continue in that, and at the heart of it, it's the being. So often, and we love the Salvation Army, we've come to Christ through it and continue to live our lives out to it, but we're doers, right? We're known as doers.
We're an army.
We're an army.
Yeah.
We want to be intentional, and I know even our new international leaders have talked about this in early days, of all of our doing being out of our being. First things first.
Beautiful.
All of our doing out of our being.
Yeah.
So we want to create and cultivate disciples who are good at being. Because the doing will come out of that. But you can do, and never truly be who you are and created to be in Christ. So we're getting ready to launch that discipleship pathway, and certainly as we continue to grow and new people are coming to Christ, it's a very keen time. Now, obviously, we've been discipling. It's now more of an intentional pathway or seats at the table that helps give us some framework to that discipling.
Yeah. And it goes to the question of, because I'm thinking of my own discipleship journey and what I'm very convinced, and this is after highs and lows of my own faith, I am very convinced that Christ will do a good work in us until the day of completion. That
It's my verse.
Yes.
Yes, we didn't plan that.
Brought me to training college.
Yes.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, and see, this is a hopeful thing for me, because like a surrendered life to God is a transformed, and there's such an angst around like getting things right, and like, we are called to obedience once we've surrendered our lives to Jesus, but it's such a process of discipling, or I think it's Eugene Peterson that says it's a long obedience in the same direction.
Yeah.
I think that's so good. And I think what's key is that's part of the journey. So it's a path, and Alpha is situated right at the start. It's just the opportunity to engage, to connect. But then I think people get hungry for transformation. They want it to be more than just the initial stage. They want to know more Jesus, and they want to know more change in their own lives.
Yeah.
And well, that's actually what one of our people said when they came to the training. I think you asked the question, what are you hopeful for?
Yeah.
What was the
Yeah.
question you phrased?
Yeah, it was kind of like at the end of the training that we did, is kind of like now after going through this training, like
What are
just,
you feeling?
Yeah, like give us a word or of where you were. Like, is it confused? Is it curious? Is it excited? Like that.
So
kind
in
of piece.
December, we had an individual give her heart to the Lord, and the next Sunday, her husband came forward and gave his heart to the Lord. But they both gave a response to this question. But her response was, I'm hopeful to see what more change can take place in me after I move through Alpha. So that's similar, you
It's
know.
that hunger,
that
right? They got a
hunger for
taste of
more.
it. And it was that very same individual that after she gave her life to Christ on that Sunday, and that week you met with her and was chatting, and that Sunday she shared her testimony.
So she's like, what else can I do?
Yeah,
Like,
what's
what can I
next?
do now? So I gave her a Bible. She's never read the Bible, didn't own a Bible, so we gave her a Bible. And I'm like, what you can do now is share your story. Like, you need to tell your story of transformation. So I'm like, and she's like, so how do I do that? I'm like, you can start by next Sunday sharing your story in church. So she did. She got up, shared her story. I know she struggled with addiction, and it's been 2 years since, you know, that this was her birthday.
That was yours,
That was her anniversary.
And that Sunday, her husband gave his life to Christ. So it's just content the
And they're
fuel.
both involved
Fire.
in Alpha.
Yeah, the training. They're going to check hard off.
Oh, wow. Well, I love that question. So I guess that I want to end on that question. Give me a word, give me a vision, give me something that as you look ahead to your encounter context, what you've already seen happen and what you hope for down the road. What are you hopeful about? What are you excited about? You can even add, if you feel like it, what you're apprehensive about. You can start with that one if you want. Whatever you feel.
Yeah. I think for me at the moment, if you want to talk about apprehension, it's almost a piece of not wanting to. It's very exciting to think about it. It's also very overwhelming because when you have all these new people coming to Christ and experiencing this transformation, it's almost a sense of trying to keep up and to disciple. And at times, again, when you got like, we go away for 2 weeks and come back and there's like 10 or 12 new people and just trying to keep up with the growth. And that's why team is so important. And not built on just two of us or even just our leadership team or our staff team. And again, all those teams are amazing.
And that would be mine, would be the growth, like the pace that we're growing. And because we are doers, we're like, okay, what can we do now? We
What's
just gotta
next?
go.
Yeah.
So, and I always go back to September because we jumped into September and I kept saying we've got to pump the brakes. Like we just got to slow down because sometimes we spin, like we just gotta go, what's next? And I'm just, it's not us.
Yeah.
It's Jesus who's doing it. So it's not us that got to come up with like what's next. He's going to show us. He's going to tell us what's next, the next step. So I think that's the apprehension for me, and I feel it is for us because the fast pace that we're growing, we just feel like we've got to be fast too. Like we've got to go with it when really we don't.
No.
Because it's not us. So we've got to continue to slow down,
Wait on God.
wait, be in tune with the Holy Spirit,
That's good.
and He's going to lead us. But that would be my apprehension as well, is it's the speed at what it's going, and some people will be like, well, that's a great problem to have, but I know us, I know what we're like, and that's a drive for us. And so sometimes we need to come back in like 2 gear instead of like 4x4 and be like,
I don't want to be ahead of God.
let's
Right, because you can in your own strength and your own wisdom. And I read a book on vacation, and I think it's a way of God preparing even for what He knew we were coming back to and this next season here at Encounter. And one of the great takeaways was, I don't want to keep making decisions. I want to discern.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference between just like, well, we're going to make a decision. What are we going to do? Compared to, no, we're going to just wait on God and we're going to discern.
Yeah.
because He is doing a great thing,
He
and He
is.
will continue to do a great thing.
Yeah.
You know.
So that's the apprehension. When it comes to
I'm excited anticipation in
Yes.
saying that, we
Yeah.
are growing fast, but I'm excited to see what's next.
Yeah.
I'm excited to be in this moment and, to have this view and this vision of what's next. And what I
Yeah.
see is pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah, and we share this story. Again, this is not completely our comfort zone, but we share this story today because it was others who shared their story. If we go right
Yeah.
back to the beginning, like how did you end up getting out? Well, we heard about it. There were people sharing stories. There were churches who's like, this is how Alpha
Yeah.
as a tool as transformed our church, our community. Here's the testimonies. Look at the video of these lives transformed. So when this opportunity came, we're like, there could be another church out there
Absolutely.
that wants to see the unchurched reached,
the
wants
next
to see their
level.
family and friends reached for Jesus.
Yeah.
And here's a tool that can do it. So if you had to say, like, what's a word or a phrase to end off? For me, it would be number one, just do it.
Just do
It's like Nike, just do it.
I love it.
Don't, like, for everything you can think of not to do or why not to do
Yeah.
it, just do it. That's what we've done,
Yeah.
and God has honored it and multiplied
One
it
step in front
and
of the
fueled
other.
it.
And mine would be, don't be afraid of failure.
Yeah.
We've tried many things and it have failed. Okay, fine, we move on. We've tried
Yeah.
it, we move on. You try something different and that might take off. And that's like Alpha. I don't think that Alpha's going to fail ever. So
Yeah.
I don't feel that you should be afraid of failure. Just do it because it will work.
Yeah.
It will.
And I think the very last piece is I've thought about Alpha, and this is my absolute prayer.
Yeah.
And I do believe, and this could be for any denomination, but for ours, I believe Alpha is a tool that can put the salvation back in Salvation Army. And I don't know about anybody else, but that is my greatest desire,
Yeah.
is that God would.
Yeah.
He raised us up to be a Salvation Army.
Wow.
And my prayer, and I believe this tool can help us put salvation back into Salvation Army.
Oh, that is so good. I mean, I just want to keep talking with you, but I mean, that's obviously a brilliant note to end on. And like, what a good reminder, what a testimony of both faithfulness, responding to the call. God doesn't need us, but he invites us to partner. And then just like kind of putting your hands up and saying, okay, God,
All you
it's
know.
all you. It's just beautiful and encouraging. So thank you, Brent and Melissa, both for responding to that call and being willing to step outside of your comfort zone and share with us. I do think many people in many places will hear this, will watch this, and think, I can do that.
Yeah.
I can just have people over or in our church space and have some food and watch these.
It can be in your house,
Absolutely.
your neighborhood. Have them
Yeah.
over for snacks
Yeah.
and do Alpha. It's simple.
And evangelism stops being this terrifying cold call on the
Beating
corner.
people over the head with the Bible. Yeah, it's not that.
No.
Set your table and invite them to take a place.
It's so relational.
Hospitality.
Yeah.
Really. Hospitality.
Okay. Thank you both so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.